Hi there, I'm Jo, photographer, ex-urban explorer, texture maker, digital artist and Photoshop addict. I love to experiment and create art in Photoshop, with perhaps some questionable decisions along the way. Expect tutorials, sometimes weird art, and a lot of curiosity and controlled digital chaos. Well, mostly controlled. So grab your pen tool and let's go create some art. Hi there, this is going to be just a very quick demonstration of how I use photo masks or clipping masks to create multi-layered backgrounds and add some extra interest to my images. I'm demonstrating this in Photoshop, but you should be able to use these techniques in other software that uses layers, for example Procreate. Clipping masks can be useful for building interesting backgrounds, creating scrapbook layouts, and generally getting creative with your images. If you've never used them before and are interested in trying this out for yourself, I've included 3 sample masks from my latest sets, and I'll include the download link in the description below the video. So let's get started. So I'm starting off with just a canvas texture, and to this I'm going to add my image, and I'm just going to scale it so that we can see the texture behind. Now I'm going to add a clipping mask or a photo mask. You'll often find them for sale as either photo masks or clipping masks. And I'm going to choose one of my messy elegant masks. And I just want to resize it while it's here. I've unchecked the link up the top here so I can move each side independently. But I just want to get it within the confines of the image underneath. So something like that. We can adjust it in a moment. And now I'm going to drag that layer beneath my image layer. And then all I need to do is select the image layer, hold down Option or Alt on my keyboard, and then hover between the 2 layers. And you'll see that the icon turns into a little downward facing arrow. Well, as long as it's doing that, you then just click and you've now clipped your image to the clipping mask. And there you can see it's created a really interesting effect. Now, if I wanted to resize the mask, I can select it, press Command or Control T and move the mask around the canvas. Now, obviously, if you drag too far, you're going to see the edge of your image, which is not what we want. So you need to keep it within the confines of the image. But I can also resize the image itself by selecting that layer and doing the same thing, pressing Command or Control T. And this time I will press the little link at the top to constrain the proportions. And now I can drag that image to resize it, move it around within the mask. Now, once I've got it in position, I might decide that I want to move the entire mask and image together. And to do that, I just simply click both layers. And when they're both selected, group them together with Command or Control G on the keyboard. And now they're grouped together, I can move them as one object. So again, I go into transform mode and I can now resize that group to fill as much of the canvas as I like. Again, I can move it around. So that is the basic method for using clipping masks or photo masks. But if I bring up another image, I'm going to show you some other things that I do. So I'm just going to now add another one of my textures as a base. And I'm going to add a bit of interest to this background before I add my image. So I'm going to drag over this textured background here, and I'm going to add a watercolour mask here. Quite a nice sort of splashy mask there. And again, I'm going to drag that underneath my numbers layer, and then I'm going to clip it by holding down Option or Alt, hovering between the 2 layers and clicking. So as you can see, that's created quite a nice effect on top of the texture, but I'm feeling like it's a little bit too strong and I want to make it a bit more subtle. So what I'm going to do, if I select the mask layer and I changed the layer blending mode to soft light. That's going to create a much more subtle effect. Now I'm going to group those layers together just like we did before, and then I'm going to transform them and make them a little bit smaller. Something like that, I think. And I'm going to then drag it over into the corner, just so we're creating a little bit of interest on the edge there. And I think I might like to do the same down the bottom here. So all I need to do while I've got that group selected is press Command or Control J to duplicate it. So I've created another copy, and then go back into transform mode and drag those layers down. So something like that. So now I've got a little bit more of an interesting background, and I'm going to add my main image now. And again, I'm just going to shrink this image down a little bit so we can see the rest of the canvas. So I probably want to get it somewhere about there, just as a starting point. And I'm then going to add my final mask, which is one of my messy script masks. And again, I want to get this roughly the same size as my starting image. I'm going to again adjust this in a moment. We'll start off there. Again, I need to drag it below my image and then clip the image to it. As you can see, we're not quite right here, so I need to adjust the image layer first. So press Command or Control T, and I'm going to stretch that out a little bit. And now I feel like I'm missing too much of my image, so I'm going to adjust the mask. So make sure the mask is selected, and I'm going to uncheck the link at the top so I can move these down independently. Again, make sure I'm not hitting the edge of the image. That's giving me a little bit of extra space there around my image. And I think just to finish things off, I'm going to make this image sit better in the composition. So I'm going to just turn it into a sepia toned image. So with that selected, that layer, I'm going to go up to Image, Adjustments, Black and White. And I'm going to go down to the bottom here and click Tint. And if I double click the tint layer, I can adjust the colour of that a little bit. I think I want it slightly more desaturated than the surroundings, something like that. It looks quite nice. I'm going to click OK. Now I could leave it like that, but another little trick I sometimes use is to make the mask stand out from the background a little bit more. So I'm going to select the mask layer and just go down to the bottom of the layers panel and click the FX icon down the bottom there. And I'm going to select drop shadow. Now I want to keep this very subtle, so I'm going to just have a distance of, I think, 1 pixel, a size of 1, and we can change the direction of the shadow to see what works best. I think something like that. And I'll just lower the opacity of that effect a little bit. Something like that. It just helps to make that stand out a little bit from the background, and it also shows up the text on the clipping mask a little bit better. And again, if I wanted to resize it, I think I will just make that a little bit more central to the design. So I'm going to group those layers together, press Command or Control T. Again, click the link icon because I don't want those moving about too much now. I'm just literally going to scale that up. Something like that. So there you have it. Just a very simple demonstration of how I use clipping masks. So I hope you found that useful. And as I say, I've created a little sample pack for you. It's completely free. Just follow the link in the description below to grab your masks and get creating some interesting effects with your own images. And I'll see you next time.